Hello everybody and welcome. It has been a while. Thank you for watching another video here on the My Argonauts channel. If you're also a fan of my sumo channel, I had this exact same setup and t-shirt on, well not hoodie, on in my recent sumo video, so these are actually two different videos. But if you're not a fan of my sumo channel, why aren't you? Go over there and watch some sumo. It's a lot of fun, and we're about to have a new tournament start here in about a week on January 10th in Japan. But I should say, Akemashite Omedetou gozaimasu. Happy New Year. I hope you're having a good New Year holiday. Obviously, it's a big holiday here in Japan. We're all shut down for winter vacation, Fuyu Yasumi. And I'm not at work right now, although I am doing a lot of stuff at home. I've got tons of grading that I let pile up as a teacher. You sometimes let this happen. One of the things I made my kids do this semester was newspaper journals, so they had to take the English language newspaper that we get, cut out articles, make comments, and, pull out words and look them up in the dictionary and blah, blah. So I've got to go through, 90 of those and give them back in the next few weeks at school. And then I've got my new job. Some of you are a little confused, on my Argonauts Facebook page. When I mention things like I'm moving and blah, 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 so some of you haven't heard, but I'll say it here in the start of 2016 video. I have a new job. I'm going to be working at a private high school, and I'm going to be teaching history for the first time since I graduated with my history degree back in 2004. I've obviously been teaching English here in Japan for the past 10 years, so this is the first time I'll actually have a chance to teach what I was sort of trained and studied to teach. And so these are students that are learning in a special program through IB, International Baccalaureate. They're being taught in English. They're taught physics and science and math and history and, English, of course, in English. And they get a special diploma when they graduate, etc. So I'm looking forward to that. I've got to do some studying, take a course, do some training. So I've got a lot to do here in the first couple months of the new year. And then in late February, I'll move to my new city. I'm not going to say what it is, but it's a much bigger city than where I live now. So saying farewell to Shimane-ken after 10 years, and new apartment, and new coworkers, new students. So a lot of new stuff for me. So how is your 2016 starting? Is it some new challenges like I have? My 2015 was fairly static. I didn't even, in fact, leave the country. I never went home to America in 2015. I hope to do that in 2016. My father is turning 80 in June. I can't go home for his birthday because I'll be teaching. It would just be too difficult. I mean, I could go home for like a weekend, but you never want to do that, trust me, when you're flying all that distance. But hopefully in the summer, this summer coming up, I can go home and spend some time with my pop. All right. The reason for this video, and it's 3 minutes in now, and I'm sorry if you're just waiting to hear the news stories, is every year, I think I've done this many times, the Japan News and Yomiuri Shimbun prints the top 10 domestic news stories. They also do the international stories, and I don't know if they've done it this year, the top 10 sports stories, but I'm just going to do the domestic news because I feel like if you're interested in Japan, this might be something you want to know about and hear about. What is, people are talking about here, or what they were concerned with in 2015. And they're basically, they're voted on. So there's percentages. Oh, all of a sudden I've got an itchy nose. And they get, the people that wrote in to say, hey, this is what I think was important. They got almost 11,000 votes. And this is the 10 stories that people thought were most important. Okay, number 1. 2 researchers win the Nobel Prize. So Satoshi Omura and Takaaki Kajita won Nobel Prizes for cosmic ray research. No. Oh, that's where he works. He works at the Institute for Cosmic Ray Research. They won the prize in physics. And so there are the two guys. And this is Japan always goes nuts when Japanese people win international prizes. If they, like when they won the Women's World Cup, or if a skater wins like a Grand Prix at a different country, or anything like that. The Japanese people love that crap. And they should, they should be proud, smart guys, and so that was big news, and these guys are obviously held in high esteem here. And as I mentioned, sports accomplishments in other places. The number 2 story is Japan achieves 3 wins in the Rugby World Cup. So there's the team, and actually if I unfold the paper here for you, you can kind of see the whole team there. This has actually become a buzzword. This guy, if you watched any of the footage, his name is Goromaru, Ayumu Goromaru, and Goru pose. Goru pose. Pose means, like how you pose. And so this thing that he did, it almost looks like what we in Japan know as the kancho, but he's kind of like he's like praying to like a Buddhist statue thing, and he would do this right before he'd take a big kick, and it's become a buzzword. So them beating South Africa, a huge powerhouse in the rugby world, in that opening match, and then in fact getting 3 wins after I think only winning once in the previous 5 times they've appeared in the tournament. But then they didn't get through because their group was so strong. They got 3 wins, which would normally put you through to the second round, and they didn't get through. But anyway, they did very well, and Japan is hosting the Rugby World Cup in 2019. So that's very auspicious that they did that and did well. And people here are now talking about rugby, and more kids know about rugby in Japan, if you come here, for instance, than American football. They still, it's not like they're wearing the jerseys or they really know a lot of the players or whatever. Still, it's baseball and soccer, the 2 big ones. But anytime I have an American football, like I have one in my office, and if I take it down and I'm just, using it, or if I bring it to class to make a demonstration about something, people always go, "Oh, rugby ball," and I'm like, "No, it's an American football." So, yeah, they really just don't know American football here. A few people do. They do show it a little bit here on TV. American football, I'm talking about. All right, number 3. I don't know how you pronounce this. Somebody tell me in the comments. Is it ISIL? ISIL? ISIL kills 2 Japanese. The Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant, extremist militant group, where it threatened to kill 2 male Japanese hostages unless it received $200 million ransom. And so they showed, they actually did kill these 2 people, Kenji and Haruna. So that was big news here. It's such a safe country, Japan, and we're so little, it's an island nation, and we're so little touched by some of the tragic things that happen in the world. Obviously, we had the very tragic tsunami and earthquake in 2011, but we haven't had a lot of, like what happened in Paris, where people that want to do harm to other people for whatever reason do it here in Japan. And so when this happens to Japanese citizens abroad, it gets a lot of news here for, obvious reasons. And so that was number 3. Number 4. My Number ID system officially starts. So the My Number ID, I don't know a lot about it. Again, I should be wearing my Tokyo Tonight shirt to reference you to go over and probably listen to Hiko. Maybe he'll talk about some of these, Hiko Simon, on his channel. The My Number ID system is basically, I'm an American, it seems like it's basically Social Security. It's the Social Security system where in America, to get a job or to be really in the system for pension and things like this, you have to have a Social Security card, and it just has a, 3 plus 2 is 5 plus 8, it has an 8-digit number on it, and you're given one, and you use it all your working adult life. and that's how you pay your taxes and blah 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 blah. And they're finally doing something similar here, I guess, in Japan, where they want everybody in the country to have this 12-digit number. And I got mine. They sent me mine. It was no problem. I don't really have to do anything. It's just I just tore the card out of this thing and put it in my wallet, and it's in there. Maybe when I go to my new employer in March, she'll say, "Oh, do you have my number?" And they'll put me in the system that way. I don't know. But the problem, I guess, is a lot of this mail is getting sent out, with the envelope that I got, and it's got all the information inside, and it's getting returned to sender. Like, they're trying to track down just, hundreds of thousands of people by the last known address, and, they're not finding them, etc., etc. So, anyway, that's getting rolled out here. I don't know why it's being opposed or why people think it's a bad thing other than the government's tracking you. But maybe Hiko can shed some light on that if you ask him. All right, number 5, 8 die in torrential rains in Kanto and the Tohoku regions, and you've got the rescue helicopter there and the floods. So this was back in Ibaraki, Tochigi, and Miyagi prefectures back in September. Typhoon number 17 came in, and there was so much rain that this river breached its borders, embankment, and overflowed. And whenever something like this happens, unfortunately, there's so many elderly people in these rural areas who just can't, escape quickly. They're, in wheelchairs or whatever, and they can't just run away fast enough. And obviously, a lot of the casualties are often elderly people. So that was number 5. Number 6, security-related bills passed into law. So this is the LDP, the ruling Liberal Democratic Party of Japan. The leader of their party is Shinzo Abe. He is the current Prime Minister of Japan. And in September, they passed a law that now changes the way that Japan can use its military. It's called a self-defense force. Although it's like the 3rd or 4th largest military in the world. The way we can send our troops to other places, for instance, if the UN says, hey, we need a force in, Iraq to do this, now Japan can send some people, and before we were never allowed to engage in skirmishes or things where there was an offensive. We were only able to supply aid and be defensive. But that's changing, and then the current government is very hawkish, so that's not surprising. But there was a lot of protests about it. It didn't get covered a lot. This newspaper is very conservative, the Yomiuri Shimbun. There was literally I think about 100,000 people marched on the Prime Minister's office or somewhere in downtown Tokyo, and with signs and chants and protests and, hey, don't do this, and we want to remain a peaceful nation. We don't want to ever have to go to war again. This is against what we've strived for. And it didn't get a lot of coverage in this paper, but it got a lot of coverage online. So I'm glad, that obviously I have multiple resources to be able to look at the way Japan is, because if it all filtered through this, it would be kind of like only being able to watch Fox News or something. It's not that right-wing, this paper, but, only being able to get your news from one source is never a good thing. Okay, number 7. This was big news here. The Hokuriku Shinkansen line starts service to Kanazawa. So they've long wanted to be able to get on the Shinkansen in Tokyo and go all the way up to Hokkaido. And I think this is part of the step that's going to happen. I think you can now take it all the way up to very close to Hokkaido, and then you still have to get off and either, then drive across or take a ferry across. Hokkaido is the large, island that's the 4th main island of Japan that's on the very top of the country. Very cold in the winter. But their big city is Sapporo, which is also the maker of a beer maybe you've heard of. Anyway, so they want to be able to link Sapporo and Tokyo by rail. And so this is a big part of that. It's amazing how long it takes to get some of this done. There's also a really high-speed train that's going to be starting either this year or next year, and it's going to go some ungodly amount of kilometers per hour, and like get you from Tokyo to Osaka like 45 minutes faster than it does now, or something crazy. I don't know. All right, number 8, piling data falsified for tilting condo other builders. So this story was about, there's been a lot of like construction stories in the news in the past year or two. There was a tunnel, for instance, near Tokyo, where a bunch of the roof tiles fell on drivers that were driving through the tunnel at that moment, and some people died. And it's because some of these tunnels that were built on some of the roads in Japan are so old, and they don't get serviced properly, and that's part of just infrastructure. It happens in America too, bridges and things that need more thought about how safe they are. And this was another thing. This condo building started to tilt, and what they found out is that the materials used to like put the really strong pilings into the ground to keep it from doing that were not made of the right materials. They had been falsified, so they used cheaper materials to build this building, and now they're paying the price. And so this company has really been taken to task. And we had something similar like that with a company that makes airbags in Japan, falsified a bunch of data about these airbags that went into a bunch of cars, I think across many brands. I think it was Toyota and some other brands as well. And they're failing. They're not going off when they should. And so, that's just terrible. When shit like that happens, that just makes me angry. Because, it's like, just spend the right amount of, this is safety. This is like, people's lives. Just do what you're supposed to do, and don't fuck around with that kind of stuff. So, all right, number 9. A lot of talk, and I don't know a lot about it. I'll admit I don't keep up on all Japan news as much as I should. Broad agreement reached in negotiations on TPP Free Trade Pact, and I don't know if there's anything else here. 12 countries, including Japan and the U.S., reach a broad deal in the TPP talks. So this is number 9, Trans-Pacific Partnership, something about the way we export and import goods between us and the Philippines and Taiwan and Australia and here and the United States. And it affects things like farmers, the prices of goods. It's the whole butter argument that Hiko Simon loves to talk about, how we don't have enough butter in this country. We literally have a shortage of butter because they won't let us import cheaper butter than you can buy domestically in Japan, etc., etc. So there's all kinds of facets to that, but we made some agreements to try to be more of, cooperative with the rest of the world. And the final one, which is kind of an interesting one for me, because I did follow this story, was the emblem designed for Tokyo Olympics withdrawn. So I don't know if you guys remember, it looked kind of like a large eye, and then sort of like a half a T, and then a big circle that was red, like the Hinomaru flag, and it looked horrible. It was a terrible design for the Tokyo Olympics. I'm so glad that it got withdrawn. And basically what happened is they put it up, and some people are like, hey, that looks a lot like this Belgian, opera company's logo, or something. I can't remember what it was, but basically they ripped this design off from something else that they had seen that was, used in Europe like 10 years ago. But it was terrible design. There were so many better ones, like going around Twitter and stuff, that had like sakura cherry blossoms or like a fan, motif, or, things that like, make you think of Japan. This one was just abstract and terrible. So anyway, it was embarrassing for the people that submitted the logo. They got caught. And luckily, they've withdrawn it. And I haven't seen a new logo. If you've seen a new logo, tell me and leave a comment. Or go over to my Argonauts page and let me know. It's easier over there sometimes to leave a link to something. Some of you left links of you wearing the sumo clothing that you got for Christmas presents or something. That would really make me smile. This video is about to be 20 minutes. Okay, I'm going to stop. That was the top domestic news stories for 2015. Welcome to 2016. Kotoshimo yoroshiku onegaishimasu. Please be nice all this year to me and everyone else you know. Peace. We'll see you next time.